Always lively and unrehearsed. It's another edition of Moral Side of the News. We're glad you're here. I'm John Blim with the WHAS Crusade for Children. With me, I'm joined with a distinguished panel once again this week. Dr. Jamesetta Ferguson, St. Peter's United Church of Christ and MOLO Village CDC. Reverend Sally McClain, retired Christian Church, Disciples of Christ. Rabbi Stan Miles, Louisville Melton School. And Father John Stoltz, St. Aloysius Catholic Church. Our first topic panel, the Supreme Court is hearing arguments about the legality of a White House plan to forgive $400 billion in federal student loans during the pandemic. Justices had many questions, including about how the plan was crafted and whether it's fair to the Americans who repaid their student loans. So panelists, let's hear your thoughts on student loan forgiveness.
I think there are many ways to be able to read this situation, lots of lenses to look through. One would be the individual recipient and responsibility lens. And that would be that this individual student got a loan and it's their responsibility to pay it back. I think the fairness argument could come through that, as well as there are people who didn't get loans and perhaps are working less paying jobs. Why should someone who's going to make a higher paying job get a loan forgiven? Another argument, though, may not be seen as much by Americans, would be a communitarian argument. Now, I don't mean communist or anything like that, but the sense of this is larger than an individual. When you're looking at, I think, $500 billion in debt, and I believe the total debt for students in the United States, loan debt, would be about $1 trillion. That amount of money affects everyone. So whether or not they're student or not, it affects the whole economy. And the actions that would be better for the total economy would be some of the ways that actions the government could look at as being strategic to actually help out our economy as a whole. That's another lens. I think the Supreme Court is going to look at through a lens of, does the president actually have the power to do something like this? And so that's a lens that they're looking through. And I would think there's other lenses as well that may not be within the realm of the Supreme Court, but a political lens. So if the Supreme Court turns this down, this could play into the party of the president's advantage. And because there are many people who are very interested in this, in wanting those loans forgiven. I think there's several ways to be able to look at this and sort of see different perspectives taking place.
The example that was given when I initially looked over this part of our program, I thought, oh well, here we go again, liberal versus conservative, and but then as I came a little deeper, looking at it from a perspective of morality, when the example was given of the two hypothetical individuals, one who had a student loan and was saddled with debt, and the other person who couldn't afford college, so the person started a lawn care business by getting a bank loan, which the person repaid. I would love to see a way for there to be a remission of debt. Ironically, I was doing some studying for a class that I'm teaching on the idea of the sabbatical year in the Torah. And the sabbatical year, of course, you let the land lie fallow during the seventh year, but there's also a remission of debt that's tied into that, and to make a more equitable society. And this is where the dilemma is. How do we, those people with student loans, many of them are crushed by the debt. How do we help them relieve that while being fair about it? It's a dilemma. I'm the furthest person from an economist you're going to find. And I don't know, but I think certainly something needs to be done both ways.
it really is an equity issue, I think, for many people, because many people of color are unable to go to college or obtain an advanced degree without student loans. I was one of those individuals. And if it had not been for that student loan, then I would not have gone. And so I think that has to be some consideration that it is an equitable issue. And now, whether that means that something needs to be repaid, a portion of it, or none at all, I don't have the answer. But I do know that it is an unfair burden for many people of color. And so I would like to see something done. But the greater issue is the cost of a higher education. And that is something that needs to be tackled, because you have people, no matter what your economic standing, if you want to go to college, it's an absorbent amount to pay for school. And if we want to have a competitive workforce, or competitive society with higher education, then we're going to have to work out the cost of higher education to make it more affordable for everybody.
And I agree. It's the issue of making it affordable for more people. Yeah, I mean, my kids went through on student loans. They had to do that. And you're talking about middle-class people who can no longer afford an education. Two things that I was talking to friends who said, what if they came with an extremely low interest rate and made it so that your interest rates didn't compound every time the stock market moved, and you didn't have that adjustment to take care of. The other thing are the late fees. You can be saddled with late fees until you're out the wazoo, and you will never catch up. And once you get behind, it's almost impossible to work out that situation. So I think that even if this doesn't pass, I think there are other options that we can look at, so that, if you had a 1% or a 1.5% interest, for example, and if you waived your late fees so that they were almost, at the end of the year, they were deleted or something, so that person could pay that loan back in a reasonable amount of time, instead of having to wait until you're 60 years old. Somebody I saw that was in their 60s that was still paying off their student loans. So, I think there's got to be another way. And then the other thing is that somebody said to me that colleges are now big business. And I really hadn't thought of colleges as big business. But they're
Go ahead.
I was going to say they're big business for the community, and they're big businesses for themselves. So it does seem to me that there can be a way to improve upon this situation instead of doing the same old thing we've always done.
Yeah. One of the things I think that we need to work toward too is the forgiveness of students' loans if you are working in a profession that is attributing to the improvement of that community. For instance, I know a lot of physicians, if they go and work in Appalachia, then a certain portion of their tuition or their student loans is forgiven. The same is for some community service organizations. So perhaps there's a way to increase the number of opportunities for people with student loans to have their loans forgiven if they are volunteering or participating in an oppressed community in some way to provide service.
Well, I think teaching would fall into that category, given the salaries they make and the education they have to have in order to teach.
Right. Right. Because now in Kentucky, you have to have a master's, right?
Right. Correct.
Yeah.
And those professions don't. You could also think of social workers. Probably there's some others too. And as much as the studies show that people with a college education overall make more money than those without the education, nevertheless, if you think about those large loans over a long period of time, basically another way to look at that is a salary reduction. Mm-hmm. And so that those people are making actually less money. They have less disposable income, less money that they can do to buy homes, to do other things in raising their children and things like that. That's an implication to see.
Right.
All right, panel, we're off and running on this edition of Moral Side of the News. We'll move on to our second topic now. We have talked before about the cost of healthcare in America. And this week, welcome news from those who need insulin. Eli Lilly announced it will cap insulin costs at $35 a month. Turning to our panel, can we hope this is the first of many meaningful changes?
Absolutely. But I was thinking, there's a large segment of our population that I'm wondering, even at that $35 a month, if they have a need for insulin, if they can have some way to access the insulin. And I was thinking specifically about our homeless population, and I don't see an answer to that question.
Well, would a lot of those people perhaps be on Medicaid? And does Medicaid provide for insulin? I'm not sure about that. I don't know how the medication. Maybe the medication is not covered under Medicaid, but I think it's a great thing. I know of people that have had to work 2 jobs, even though they were retirement age, but they had to have the insulin, and that's why they continued to work. So I think this is absolutely a step in the right direction. There is no need for the companies to make billions of dollars off a medication that's been around for forever.
Yeah. I agree. I have known of people in our community who, because they can't afford the insulin, either they don't take it or they ration it, and which is just as bad. And so to reduce it to $35 that's amazing. And I'm hoping that the other pharmaceutical companies will follow suit. But there's so many other medicines that are extremely high that also need to reduce the cost. And so I'm hoping this is a new beginning. But, I think, once again, you're talking about big business and our corporations and whether they're going to want to forgo those profits long term. Who knows? I don't think so.
I realize that corporations in pharmaceuticals have research costs. I'm aware of that. The drugs that developed during COVID, those were made very fast, and it seems that they were effective in what happened there. So I'm really thankful. At the same time, some things I'd like are some lower prices for pharmaceuticals. Insulin is, as Sally mentioned, it's been around for such a long time, and also it's a life and death drug for so many people. It is such a necessity for people. The other thing, not really related to this topic, but a little bit, is I'd like to see more pharmaceuticals made in the United States and made here for us, so we can run into world supply problems, or also other kinds of state relations problems that could put us in a vulnerable place, I think. And so those are some things I'd like to see. I think the $35 though, for that, the reduction of price is really a great benefit to people who suffer from diabetes.
We look upon ourselves as a just society, and this is a goal to be reached. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that we can ever reach it, but I can tell you what an unjust society is. An unjust society is a society where people are forced to make a decision. Do I refill the prescription, or do I put food on the table, or do I pay rent? That's an unjust society. And if there's to be justice in society, those types of decisions need to be taken off the table.
So we hope this is the tip of the iceberg for future healthcare cost reductions. We'll see. About halfway through our program, Moral Side of the News. Thank you for joining us, listening, and watching this program this weekend. Our third topic, the Courier-Journal and other newspapers across the country will no longer publish the comic strip Dilbert, effective this week. Recent racist comments about Black people by the creator Scott Adams have, quote, influenced our decision to discontinue his comic, reported the Courier-Journal. Panelists, let's hear your thoughts.
I have no idea who it even is. I've never read one of his comics, so.
And I haven't either. So I don't know. I just remember the incident in Paris where, wasn't it a comic that they reacted to so strongly with the Muslim community, and how much damage really that can do. That's what, this topic brought to my mind. And if it's going to create damage, then that's not funny.
Right.
I think just reading what he said, is the things he said were outrageous and hateful, and so I think an important lesson here is that there are consequences to the things that we say. We have a sense of freedom of being able to say things that we want to, but it's not a freedom where there aren't any consequences. There are consequences that are there. There may be work consequences or social consequences, or maybe also maybe a correction. That when outrageous things are said, that corrections are made. So I kind of think that this falls here in that when someone makes a statement that is so contrary to values of a community, then there are consequences that follow. And I think that's the line of reasoning that the newspapers used in dropping this cartoon from their network, is that it just contradicted the values that were there.
And there was no attempt to say, look, I misspoke, I did this.
Yeah.
The guy standing by his words, my opinion, the response of all of the newspapers was right, proper, and really the only path they could follow. And because words matter.
Yeah.
Words cause hatred, causes violence. Hatred causes death. And spewing hatred is the verbal equivalent of going into a room with a loaded gun and pulling the trigger. There are so many consequences that we cannot even realize what they are and what they mean.
What was it? There's a quote, I'm probably not got it correct or don't have it correctly, but even the hatred of injustice disfigures the face.
Brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was Brecht, Bertolt Brecht. So, yeah.
But Jamesetta, the Dilbert strip has been around for a long time, and it's parody of office life and office workers, and usually it's just a one-box little comic.
Oh, okay.
Scott Adams has been the author all that time. So we'll see how that works out. But so far, many, many newspapers are canceling his comic effective immediately. So we'll see. We'll move on now to another topic on Moral Side of the News. This, a little bit of good news here. A 6-acre plot of land will become a new park in Louisville's Russell neighborhood. Funding was provided in part by the Cincinnati Bengals and the National Football League Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
New space will replace a nearby 80-year-old park that was closed in 2018. Panel, this is great news, and maybe the Bengals just won over some more fans. We'll see. What do you think?
Harriet, is the park near MOLO Village?
It is. It's diagonally across the street from MOLO Village, and I had the opportunity to attend the event on yesterday, and just so excited because it gives the Little League football players a place to play. They lost that field, which was probably 20 years old when they demolished Beecher Terrace, and on the corner of 9th and Chestnut, they put a senior housing complex, which was a good thing, but the kids lost a place to practice and to play their games, and so this will give them that opportunity to have their own field. But there are all other amenities there as well, as far as basketball courts, tennis courts, and a food court. There are some other amenities, including walking tracks. And so just many needed activity space for our community. And then to have this artificial track that kind of helps this to stand out a little bit, because I understand there are only two. This will be the second one in the city. And so that will bring, we hope, some other activities into the Russell community. But to speak to the Bengals, all I know is they were saying, what is it, hooyah, hooyah, whatever. And it was like, okay, so this truly is going to be a Cincinnati Bengals sports park. And, we're just grateful to them and to Liz for bringing the park back to our community, and it's supposed to be open in June of 2024. So I'm excited about that.
I think it's a great thing. Our children played sports. I know that they build relationships. They make you aware of physical activity, and they give you a space.
Yeah.
A space to be, which I think is so important in that neighborhood.
It is. It is.
So I'm glad they're doing it.
Yeah.
It's great that the community responsibility of the Bengals doesn't stop in the Cincinnati side of the bridge or northern Kentucky. Yeah. That it comes to Louisville. And it's kind of like the Crusade for Children. It's kind of like the Crusade for Children because we're based in Louisville, but does our helping stop at the Jefferson County line? No, it's every county in the Commonwealth of Kentucky and half the counties in Ohio and Indiana.
Right. Yeah.
That's right.
Go ahead,
Jay. Just to say that, parks bring so much to a neighborhood, and they bring so much. One way to read it, but I don't think it's the only way, is the economic. That parks actually contribute to the economic development of the neighborhood, but also what's easily seen is the human development. The fact that people playing together, of being community, of enjoying sport, of enjoying in a relaxed and good atmosphere, is all just great for a neighborhood. So it's good news.
Yeah, I just want to say, this park. The city, and they kept a promise to the people of this community, and that's important because so many promises have gone unkept. And so this brings hope to the people in this community that they have not been forgotten, and that there are going to be some amenities here that are equal or far exceed some of the other areas of our city. And so that's an exciting thing for us. And it, like I said, it brings hope to the Russell community.
Has there actually been a groundbreaking on this yet, or is it just an announcement?
It's just an announcement. We just got the word on it 2 days ago from the Cincinnati Bengals Foundation. So the groundbreaking will come probably in the next couple of months, but it is due to be finished by summer of 2024.
It's amazing.
And hopefully,
go ahead, Stan. Go ahead.
Hopefully this new park can be one of those aspects that ends the 9th Street divide and helps us transform ourselves into one community.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think with this park and all of the other construction that's going on, and then the transformation of the 9th Street divide, which will be starting in the next 6 months or so, all of that together, I think, is moving us in the right direction.
Well, a lot of exciting things are happening in that neighborhood.
Yeah,
because it's making a lot of news. I mean, it almost seems like weekly there's something that's going on that's very positive in that neighborhood. And that's a good thing for the whole city.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the actual song is something like, who they think gonna beat them Bengals? Look it up.
Okay.
I didn't know exactly what the words were, but
I think I'll have to learn that song.
John, we're glad you know that.
I'm full of trivial knowledge. That's pretty good for me. We've got about a minute and a half or 2 minutes left in the program. One more story to share. McDonald's in Louisville started selling Krispy Kreme donuts. And a lot of people are big fans of Krispy Kreme, but panel, will this get you to go to McDonald's more often? Because, gosh, I have to have a Krispy Kreme donut to start my day.
No.
Not me. I keep thinking of the hamburger with the Krispy Kreme as the bun. Wasn't that sold at the state fair?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that didn't sound really good.
It was also deep fried.
Oh, deep fried. Yeah. I think that's what I think.
Yeah. Not excited. No.
That's a sin against nature.
All it does
I'm not only thinking of the donut and the hamburger, but I'm thinking a pickle, onions.
Yeah. In a state and in a country where obesity already out of whack, and to add one more sweet thing with 10,000 calories, per bite, I don't think that's the way to go.
Well, we'll see what happens. Thank you, panel, for this edition of Moral Side of the News. We'll bring it to a close. Thank you, Jamesetta Ferguson, Sally McClain, Stan Miles, and John Stoltz. You can catch this program again anytime on YouTube. Just jump on YouTube and search for Moral Side of the News. Until next time, thank you, panel. We'll see you next week as the conversations continue. In just a few months, we'll celebrate the 70th annual WHAS Crusade for Children. And there's something special. You could win a kitchen full of GE appliances. Just go to WHAScrusade.org. That's WHAScrusade.org, and purchase a raffle ticket to win a kitchen full of GE appliances.